everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel. First of all, can I say an absolutely huge thank you to all of you guys who have watched my previous video. Your comments, your likes, your subscriptions, it all means the absolute world to me, so thank you very much. If you haven't seen it yet, please do check it out. I will leave it up in the icon above somewhere. Now, before we start this video, can I also say an absolutely huge thank you to all of my paid Patreon members as well. This video was actually voted for by them, so just thank you very much, guys. I'll put their names around me. Honestly, you guys shape this content, so thank you so much. And of course, guys, if you guys are wanting to join the Sally Eddy Patreon army, whereby you get exclusive access and requested videos, plus other awesome benefits as well, please do check out the link down in the description down below. And of course, get some pretty cool perks, if I do say so myself. Now, today we are starting something off that is going to be extremely exciting. So I'm going to be starting my new YouTube series right here on this channel, and it's going to be a deep dive series. And because it's my channel, it's going to be all about one of the greatest bands on planet Earth. Of course, it's going to be all about Queen. So in this series, I'll be discussing songs, band members, albums, and I'll even be discussing some what-if questions and discussions. And what better way to start this series than shining a much-deserved spotlight on the man often dubbed as the quiet genius of Queen. Of course, I'm talking about the legendary bassist himself, Mr. John Deacon. Now, for all those who do not know the history of John at the moment, I'll give you a brief little summary of exactly what happened, how he joined the band, all that sort of stuff. So John actually joined the band in February 1971. I think he was their third bass guitar player that they went for, and when he auditioned, he obviously really impressed Freddie, Brian and Roger, and they were very struck by his amazing talent, but also his very silent demeanour as well. And I think when you think of Queen, you think of Freddie and his amazing stage presence and his vocals. You think of Brian May's iconic guitar solos, or you think of Roger Taylor's powerful drumming and his quite distinctive vocals as well. And rightly so. I think it's absolutely fair to say that all of these members were absolutely distinctive and legendary. But nestled in the little nooks and cranny of Queen was their bass player, Mr. John Deacon himself. He was obviously the strong, quiet type, and despite his actually reserved nature, he was absolutely integral to the band's sound and success. So here's a little bit of a mind-blowing fact about Queen, and it truly speaks about the incredible talent that is within this band. And Queen is one of those truly rare, uncommon groups whereby every single one of their band members has written a #1 song. And they didn't just write one. Oh no. In just the UK alone, they had 6 #1 songs. They had 26 UK top 10s and 10 UK #1 albums. And that doesn't include the #1s they had globally as well. So as you guys know, Freddie Mercury wrote the absolute classic legendary song Bohemian Rhapsody. Brian May wrote We Will Rock You. Roger Taylor wrote Radio Gaga. And then John Deacon, the quiet bass guitarist, well, he gave us the legendary smash hit, Another One Bites the Dust. Now, Another One Bites the Dust is a masterclass in bass-driven funk. This iconic track was heavily inspired by Black American music, and John Deacon grew up with that genre of music, particularly with disco and Motown. And get this, after a Queen concert in Los Angeles, Michael Jackson himself went up to Freddie Mercury and said, make this song, Another One Bites the Dust, make it a single. And obviously the rest is history, so talk about a cosign. It went absolutely crazy when it was released. I think it hit #1 on the US Billboard for like 3 weeks solid, which is just completely nuts. You know, and it even found an audience in Black American radio stations as well, without them knowing that Queen wasn't a black members band. It reached #2 in the R&B charts, and it was obviously in Queen's greatest hits album, so obviously the band really loved it as well. And just to add on to the success of the song, it even hit the American Music Awards for top rock/pop song in 1981. Along with We Are the Champions and We Will Rock You as well, it's become a very recognisable sports anthem too. It's often played at wrestling, boxing, ice hockey, basketball. It's played across the board, I'd say. And it was even a song that was apparently cut from Rocky 3 as well. I mean, can you imagine Sylvester Stallone just practicing and training along to Another One Bites the Dust? I certainly can. And this fact actually comes from the Survivor guitarist, whereby apparently it was later then replaced by Eye of the Tiger. Honestly, I think Another One Bites the Dust would have given Rocky a bit more of an awesome groove, but I think that's the thing that comes with John's awesome musicianship, is the fact that he was just incredibly adaptive and also very diverse too. You know, he wasn't just a solid rhythm bass player, he clearly had an ear for melody and groove as well. And yes, of course, it was his and Freddie's idea to do an album like Hot Space, but without Hot Space you wouldn't have another awesome bass driven led song in Under Pressure. I think it's fair to say that John's bass lines, you know, as a bass guitarist, it's actually quite difficult, especially when you've got a band involved, especially a rock band, that it's actually really difficult to get bass solos or bass lines to be iconic and recognisable. You know, obviously you've got your Michael Jackson bass lines, you've got your Fleetwood Mac bass lines, but John Deacon just has this distinctive sound, and I just think that they are instantly recognisable. You know, and I think a lot of the time with bass guitars as well, they're often the backbone of the band. And I think it's fair to say, because I do play a lot of John Deacon bass lines on the bass guitar, that like all Queen songs on various different musical instruments, they are extremely hard to replicate and play. You know, of course there's going to be various different Queen songs whereby you can play them very easily, but John's bass solo line that he has in the middle of Liar, you know, it's almost like watching Gandalf protect the hobbits in Lord of the Rings. You shall not pass! It's like a battle of solid rhythm against Brian's mega guitar riffing, Roger's awesome epic drumming, and then you've got John Deacon just doing this "you shall not pass" bass line. It's just epic. But think about You're My Best Friend. Think about I Want to Break Free. Or even Spread Your Wings. They are all powered by John's absolute brilliant musicianship. It's not just the playing that he absolutely smashes, it's also the lyrics too. And I think it's fair to say that a lot of Queen songs that I absolutely adore, John was the one who wrote them. But also John wasn't just a genius with songwriting or bass playing, he was also a mega whiz with electronics as well. For all those who do not know, he actually graduated first in electrical engineering, which is a really difficult sentence to say. So his electrical knowledge was actually very valuable to the band, and he actually used that skill to fix a lot of Queen's equipment in the early stages of Queen. And it also birthed in 1970 the legendary Deaky amp. This was actually before he officially joined Queen, but one of his electrical contributions very early on was via this amp. So this little amplifier was built by himself by John. I think he actually used an old radio circuit board, but it actually became a really crucial part to Brian May's iconic guitar sound. Those incredibly rich, distinctive Brian May guitar sounds that you can't get anywhere else. Yeah, John created that for you, because a huge part of Queen's sound came from this ridiculously tiny, underrated guitar amp, you know, and it's a big testament to John's integrity. He contributed so much to the band's successful sound, and it went far beyond than just playing the bass guitar. Now, I'm not too sure, but let me know down in the comments down below if you know if Brian still plays with the Deaky amp. I mean, I know that he released a lot of these mini Brian May amps as well, so I'm not too sure whether, you know, I don't know too much about amps or guitar amps and things like that, you know. Hey, I'm a drummer. I seriously think that this is something that Brian kept with him throughout all of his like musical journey, but it just complements John even more, because obviously Brian May was very happy to keep playing with it in the early stages of Queen, and without that early stage of Queen sound, we wouldn't hear the Brian May guitar sound as we do today. Some people might not actually know this, but it wasn't until the band's third album, Sheer Heart Attack, that John showed his first composition of music. It was through a track called Misfire, which I personally absolutely adore. And John was definitely more of a pop Motown kind of guy. I think it's fair to say his music tastes were definitely opposite in comparison to Brian and Roger's. And also I think it's fair to say that at first I think Freddie also was very different in comparison to Styles as well. However, I think if you just look at Queen's albums as they just went on from there, they just got better and better. John's writing styles just flourished from that moment onwards, and as discussed, he created some of the biggest Queen compositions ever. So whilst Freddie was captivating audiences with his amazing showmanship, and Brian was soaring high on his Red Special, and Roger was pounding out rhythmic perfection, whilst also looking dashing with his long blonde hair and in later years his sneaky specs. You know, I think it's fair to say that John very much was the musical glue that held the band together. He was the quiet force, the brilliant mind. He wrote absolutely classic, amazing bass lines and awesome songs, but he formed the sound that Queen eventually would become. And even in his solo work in 1986, he formed a band called the Immortals. Not many people know this because it wasn't even mentioned in Bohemian Rhapsody, or indeed that any of the band did any other solo work apart from Freddie. But they released a song called No Turning Back, and this also included contributing to the soundtrack for the Biggles film, which was based on the Royal Flying Corps as well. So I think it just shows you that he didn't need Queen in order to continue his musicianship. As a standalone bass player and as a standalone musician and a songwriter, he still flourished. Now obviously it became very difficult for John after their Magic 1986 tour. Freddie was getting sicker and sicker. It was becoming more and more obvious that John wasn't incredibly happy, and he was hitting, according to the other members of the band, he was hitting severe depression. And by the time that Freddie had passed, they very much thought that he was on the way to a nervous breakdown. And obviously due to this, he really wanted to stay out of the public eye. He didn't want anything to do with Queen anymore. He still does obviously maintain contact with Brian and Roger. However, he just decides to do things on the sidelines now. But I can really understand this from John's point of view. His need to stay out of the public eye once Freddie had sort of passed. It was blatantly obvious even before Freddie's passing that he was a very private man. And it was blatantly obvious that he also was very, very different in comparison to his fellow bandmates. John was a very, very happily married man with children, and he also loved his private life. So from that point of view, even before Freddie got sick, he had this image to the press and to the public that he was very different, he was very quiet, he was very private, he was married, he did have children, and he had that life to worry about as well. So you can 100% understand and see the reasoning as to why he didn't want to continue in the band anymore. He was very sensitive, he was the private one, and he knew very deep down that he did not want to continue this anymore, and that would make him happier. Yes, 100% it is sad for Queen fans not to ever see John live again. You know, it's sad knowing that, you know, young Queen fans such as myself, we will never get to see John actually playing live. But also, I'm very happy that the band respect who he wants to be now. You know, I think it's amazing the fact that Brian and Roger understands that he doesn't want this life anymore. They've kept him out of it, they've kept him out of the public eye, and I think that's exactly what John wants. And just as long as he's happy, that is exactly the main thing. He will forever be known as this strong, silent genius, and it just shows that he just wanted to have a good time with his friends, and that he also wanted to stick true to exactly who he was. And I guess it just shows you that not every single rock star has to be this outgoing, loud, flamboyant person to be utterly essential to a band. And I guess it's also just proof that sometimes the most profound impact comes from the most quietest people or the most quietest places, I guess. So let me know, guys, what is your favourite John Deacon song that he has ever written? What's your favourite John Deacon bass line? Or what's a Queen song that you never actually realised he wrote? Obviously, let me know all down in the comments down below. This is just the first of many Queen deep dive series, and I can't wait to do more future videos on this. So obviously, to keep up with this series, please make sure you are subscribed to my YouTube channel. Make sure you have that notification bell on so that obviously you don't miss any future episodes coming up. We will be exploring many different topics and discussions, so obviously guys, it's going to be an absolutely whirlwind of a series. So just please make sure you are subscribing, and also make sure you have those notifications turned on. And also, if you want to have your say, I know I've repeated this previously, please do check out my Patreon as well, whereby you'll be able to request various different videos and topics as well. Or like all of my Patrons have done for this video, you can also vote on future topics too. There's a load of various different things that I offer on there. That's as little as £1 or $1, so please go and check it out, guys. And as always, guys, I'll always really appreciate the support. Just by you guys subscribing, it means the world to me. As always, thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye!